So I started this project working on my Suzuki to try to lower the foot pegs. It really was after I first test rode a Triumph Bonneville. So when I rode one, the first time I rode one, it was really kind of love at first sight. And then after I bought one, then the fit of the motorcycle was just so good, and it just for the first time I felt comfortable on a modern motorcycle. And I found that every time I went to ride my Suzuki, it just felt so cramped. So the objective here to begin with was to make the Suzuki fit a little better. I measured the distance from the foot peg to the top of the seat on the Triumph, and it's 21 inches. I measured it on the Suzuki, and it's 17 inches, and so it's pretty obvious that the foot pegs really just needed to be lowered, or the seat raised up. And the other reason I chose to raise the foot pegs, or to lower the foot pegs, is because I also decided that really I didn't need two ordinary street bikes. You know, the Suzuki was sort of redundant in that regard. The Triumph is a great sort of back road, country road, street machine. It's wonderful for that. So every time I went to ride it, I was going to pick that if that's where I was going. But the Suzuki is so comfortable, and the suspension just soaks up some of these really bad roads that we have around Central Texas. You know, county roads with ancient patch potholes and things. And so the Suzuki is great on those kinds of surfaces. So I decided that I was also going to adapt the whole bike in that direction and make it a little more like an adventure bike, and a little less of a dedicated street machine, and maybe even go for some 80/20 tires or something on it eventually, but at least give me something that's going to be better suited to these 40 miles an hour and below roads that are rough, maybe with patches of gravel or sections of dirt road in there. And so the Suzuki was going to be great for that. So to do that, I needed to be able to stand up on the pegs. So that was the other real reason, that lowering the pegs and moving them forward a little bit was going to really improve my ability to stand on the pegs for visibility, or to soak up, sort of shock absorption. Stand on the pegs. I already had the motocross handlebar on the Suzuki, so this was going to make that complete. So that's really the main objective here. What I'm trying to do is make this bike fit me a little better, and make it a little more appropriate for rough condition riding. So I tried my hand at brazing these parts, and it's actually a lot harder than it looks. I had zero success with it, so I went over to my dad's house, and his next door neighbor helped us out to actually weld them up, and here they are. Here are the parts that are welded together, and you can see I've done a little grinding in here in order to make them fit flush. This side has these gussets added. This is the left-hand side, the shift side, and so I put gussets on the inside and the outside here in order to brace it up and prevent it from twisting. So with any luck, it won't twist like it was before whenever I try to shift. And then of course the brake side, and you can see it's just welded all the way around, and I had to grind this here just because that's where the frame is, so it needs to be able to clear the frame. It needs to be flush, but I kind of left the big bead of weld all around here. These should be much stronger in this condition than they were when they were bolted, because I mean, these welds are terrific and they're very strong looking. So kind of some of these welds are a little bit ugly, but I don't really care. Once it's painted, it'll be fine. I also built up this this bracket, which is so far I haven't drilled holes in it yet, but essentially this is the bracket that will mount the brake master cylinder to the original bracket. Here's the left side all put together. Shift linkage is adjusted and works. It flexes a little bit here, and if you really stand on it like in first gear, then you can see like a little bit of flexing. But I don't think that's common, that it's going to happen in action, so things are looking good. So I think this is a keeper right here. Ready to go. Here's the brake side with the mounting bracket. This bracket, you can see, just moves it because over here you might be able to see there's just not clearance because of this part right here. There's not clearance to mount the master cylinder to the original spot. So we just welded this piece up. Had to cut a little relief for it there and drill it. And then it mounts up and the brake works. Now I'm just temporarily screwed it on with some hardware that I had laying around. I need to get another couple of M6 nuts and bolts to go in there that are the right length, and then figure out the rear brake switch, which can probably mount basically right to the back of here somehow. The original mount for the rear brake switch is actually right here. It's a little ring. Unfortunately, my new bracket is in the way, and so we can't mount the brake switch on that thing. You can kind of see in there that little tab that's in there. That's where the original brake switch mounts. I'm kind of thinking I might make a bracket that goes into this bolt hole where the heel protector used to be. That's basically the same distance from the little spring down there as this one is. There's a little nub on the bottom of the brake lever that the spring attaches to for the brake light switch, and I might be able to make a bracket that just hooks onto there to hold that into a place. Just sort of rotate it around and make a bracket. Right, just use a piece of L, like steel piece of L bracket to put on there. Alright, so here you go. You see this is just a little piece of L bracket, and I don't know if you can see up in there, but the brake light switch, there you go, you can see is just mounted in the other side of this L bracket. What I did is I used a unibit to drill the hole out until it was big enough for the switch to fit through. Nothing to it, and then just bolted it into this unused bolt hole, and as you can see, it works. The problem, of course, is this is the cable, which is, you know, not nearly long enough to reach over to the switch, so I'm going to have to extend that cable. The other problem, of course, is the brake fluid reservoir, which is up here. I'm going to tuck it somewhere. The hose is not long enough to mount it in the original location, so I can't do that. Instead, who knows what I'll do with it. Probably just try to make it sit a little bit straight and you know, zip tie it or something for the time being, until I can do something else. This hose here, as you can see, the hose coming out of the master cylinder, it is kinked kind of a lot, but it's sort of contours with the frame of the bike. I think it'll probably be okay, but I might actually take it out of this little sort of holder there and instead tie it down further down on the swing arm, you know, like around here or something, so that it doesn't have such a harsh bend in it. So I got a handful of little adjusting to do tomorrow. I'll replace these temporary screws with real screws, get a couple of 1/4 inch. I've actually got these here. I'll just make up a little extension wire for this little guy if I can't pull more of it out from under the seat, so that this cable will reach to where he goes, and then, like I say, zip tie or something for the brake master cylinder fluid reservoir, and then it should be rideable. So I just, before I paint, you know, finish and paint all of this stuff, I want to make sure I'm through with drilling and grinding and all of that. So once I know that it's all good to go and I can ride it around a little bit, then I'm going to take it all off again, sand everything, and paint it all sort of this matte black, bracket and everything all the same black, so hopefully it'll look like it belongs that way.